It's October, and if you have a sensitive dog, you might have noticed that their behavior is changing alongside the season. This is a common problem that we see occurring as the days get shorter and darker and colder. Our sensitive dogs' behaviors can be affected. I'm posting here a little video that just outlines some important things I want you to bear in mind, and you can check the caption to be pointed to more resources. Why is it that my dog's behavior gets so much worse in the winter? So we're going to dive into that together. First is something that I bang on about all the time, so let's just get it out of the way, and that is physical pain and chronic pain, especially if we see a dog slowing down in the winter periods. If we see a dog just getting stiff and sore and not wanting to get up from rest, or running and then sort of hobbling or being lame, or even just if we're seeing more snapping, growling around their body over this period, I'm really thinking about an increase in potentially their experience of their chronic pain or pain in general because of the weather change. My own dog Hera has arthritis and some lumbar spine issues and a knee injury, you know. I noticed as we went into the winter period, he was slower on walks. He didn't want to go outside when it was wet. He didn't want to go outside when it was cold. He didn't want to step on the grass when it was wet. All of this looks like, oh, he's just a picky prince, you know, but that's actually not the reality. The reality is when I'm a behavior consultant looking at your cases, I am seeing that as red flags for potentially pain and discomfort. What we would be doing is way too much that I can explain in this video. Instead, what I think you should do is go to our webinar library. You can watch the pain and behavior webinar up there that's completely free. It's with a vet, and it'll take you through a lot of different things that you'll want to know. So if you're thinking that this is somewhere you want to go to our website, our webinar library, pain and behavior. Next thing that we might be seeing is increased trigger stacking. And what that just in a nutshell, trigger stacking just means that this general concept that lots of little things can build up and lead to an overwhelm response that's accumulative over time. So to be perfectly honest, I get more trigger stacked in the winter because I have all these coats on me. I get too hot, then I get too cold. It's rainy and overstimulating, and maybe at the end of the day, I might be a little bit more grumpy than I was before. And it can be similar for our dogs. Sometimes the weather has something to do with it. Some dogs will struggle wearing coats and being constrained or being cold. Literally, that can cause more stress for them. But actually, the environment changes quite a lot as we move into the winter season. It gets darker earlier. I'm in the UK right now, so it's dark really early at 6-7 p.m. And lots of folks are getting out of work and walking their dogs because they have to get exercise. And it can be much spookier, everything at night, right? Especially if your dog's an adolescent dog or a younger dog, it can be really hard to keep them feeling safe, especially if you're in like a city environment where it's a bit busy, right? So we're seeing darkness, we're seeing weather events, stormy, rainy, all of that wind, all of that stuff. And then on top of that, humanity loves to celebrate a bunch of stuff over this 3 months, right? So we have like Halloween, we have bonfire night, we have Hanukkah, Diwali, Christmas, we have all of these different Guy Fawkes night, fireworks night here in the US. So Thanksgiving, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Come on, this is just the most garbage few months if you're a dog that doesn't like noises and gatherings, which is like a lot of the dogs that we work with. So we might just be seeing this period be more challenging for them. So let's think about this. I have a dog in my house called Emily. You might have seen her, little white Romanian street dog. She's lovely, but she struggles with fireworks. And over this period, whenever there are storms or fireworks, we've got it really well managed now, but before she would have such an acute stress event that the next day should be stressed, and the day after. And if we were having storms every week, for example, very quickly she can enter a chronic stress state. So you might be noticing that lots of little things are kind of building up on each other and affecting your dog's behavior. Managing your dog's exposure to these triggers will be another piece of the puzzle. So we have a webinar called Managing Reactivity in our webinar library, which goes through strategies in the home and on walks to help reduce trigger stacking. So you can check that out for more information. But the general trend, the general idea here is that if your dog's really struggling in the dark, if your dog's really struggling with fireworks, we're going to have to adjust their environment the best we can to reduce their stress and discomfort. And that could mean, speaking to a veterinarian about how to help them with stress management. Check out that webinar for more details. All right, so we've talked about pain, we've talked about increased trigger stacking. There's another piece I think here that's worth mentioning, which is about how hard it is to meet our dog's needs in the summer. And by meeting their needs, I'm really talking here about like exercise, their needs to be outside, their need to, you know, wander around and sniff or play in the park with their friends. If you're like anything like me, you know, this can be much harder to achieve in the winter, especially if you're in a city with reduced amenities, especially if you don't have access to a car. All of these things can make it really hard. I tend to see that our dogs, Hera included, loses muscle mass sometimes in the winter, which is something I'm insisting is not going to happen this year. And I struggle with my own chronic pain. And so going out in the snow can sometimes be really a real challenge for me. And this will have an effect. The last thing is that, you know, how many of you lot find the winter period or this period of like October, November, December, actually like your energy levels aren't that high? That's a piece that I find for myself. Like I want to sleep more, and sometimes that affects my dog. And so they're not getting the version of me that's best set up for success, and that's okay. That's normal. It's just something that we want to be aware of if it's happening. Sometimes we'll see it happening and we'll go, well, we're doing the best we can right now. Other times we'll see it happening and we'll go, hey, can we adjust something, right? But I would track your dog's activities and activity schedule as well. If you're in this place where you're like, I don't know exactly what's going on with my dog, right? If you're like, I don't know what's happening, why is their behavior changing? We want to look at the pain piece. We want to look at their trigger stacking and how much stress they're exposed to, especially in this new winter season. And then we want to think about their activity schedule and making sure that we're maintaining the activity schedule that best suits them and sets them up for success. I can't tell you how important this is. The amount of cases that I've had where people are like, my dog has these problems or these challenges, and I get them to track a month of what they do with their dog, and I'm like, okay, we need to change this, and that alone resolves the behavior challenge. So I don't want you guys to pull away from these really important foundational things. And of course, today in this little live, I'm just scratching the surface, right? I'm talking about the 3 big hits that I see over this period. Often we're actually seeing multiple of these or all 3 at once. And then there are also lots of other things that could be going on. All right, my loves, I think I'm going to finish up. Thank you everyone who joined today. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the comments section. Thank you everyone. Bye. Have a nice day.